Welcome, welcome, welcome. KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show, ASKBRIEN, because that's the only way you can spell Brien. Now, for those of you who have never listened to the Ask Brien radio show, well, you're in for something, and I don't know why. I cannot understand why you would not have been listening to this radio show. It does not make any sense to me at all. My welcome co-host, Alex Grossman, is on vacation, so you'll be hearing a lot more from me, Ask Brien, and we're going to have a whole great show today. But let's go over what Ask Brien really is. Ask Brien, ASKBRIEN.com, is a website that was developed approximately 2 years ago, and the website itself is basically a location where business owners do not need to reinvent the wheel, where there are other business owners can answer a question. Hey, I'm a dry cleaner in New Orleans. I'm a dry cleaner in Sioux Falls, North Dakota, and I have the same business problem. Can you help me out? That's the community version of it. The biggest part of Ask Brien, though, goes down to the experts, where we have expert match. An expert match basically is where we are matching experts in the field, so anywhere from accounting to website designers to sales and growth people to marketing people, lawyers, everything. Anyone that can help a business owner out can qualify to become an expert. They go through an application process, and usually you need 10,000 hours in a specific subject, or sometimes if you have certain other qualifications, you can qualify as an expert. If you get qualified as an expert, you are then allowed to post your webinars on our webinar calendars, where business owners are looking for different subject matters and want to schedule or watch one of their experts' webinars. The experts also can post videos, post their blog posts, can post ebooks, and basically market themselves to the outside world. And basically, that's what Ask Brien is, BRIEN.com. And we have a great show. We have an interesting guest today, and he's going to help us out. He's an expert himself, and he is an expert basically in many areas. But his biggest area of expertise is growing and scaling a business so that you can climb Mount Everest with our expert. And without any further ado, and by the way, this gentleman is calling from halfway around the country, and his name is Alex Chafin. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How you doing?
I am here. So
that was one of the more interesting introductions I've ever had, Peter. I think most radio show hosts that I've ever been on have a sound box where they push buttons. You don't even need it.
No, I'm Howard Stern on my own.
All the characters wrapped up in one.
I got 3 or 4 more. You haven't even heard them all. But let's get into your background, because not everybody has heard of you. And so I was going over a little before. How long have you been in business?
Well, in business in general, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, like since I was a little kid.
Okay.
I was always the kid who was fundamentally different than the other kids. I was the one that, like, when a group of kids was walking up, adults would change the attenuation of the voice. They'd be like, hey, look, it's Peter and Brien and Alex. And so I never really followed a traditional path. I started my first business when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I was selling candy to the kids in school. In junior high school, I almost got kicked out of school for it. In high school, I ran a window washing service. I had 3 trucks going. I was making $1,000 a week. In college, I started a financial company, and we had some software that did automated billing. This was 26 years ago. Before there was such thing as automated billing, we were using Zebra scanners to do really fast data entry on billing back when it was manual. And we ended up selling that company to another organization. And so I've been in business forever. When I was 21, I sold the company that I started in college. I ended up in Florida with doing part of an earn-out on that company, and it didn't go very well. It was the first time I'd ever been an employee, other than being a waiter for a short period of time, and I ended up getting an opportunity to consult at the Fortune 500 level. And so When you say how long have you been in business, I feel like my real career started there. I was 21 years old, and the first client that I ever signed was Fuji Media. The second client was Fuji Digital Cameras, and the third one was SanDisk. And so in the early 90s, I was involved in the creation of the digital camera category at retail in the United States. I worked with Fuji, SanDisk, a lot of other companies like Microsoft, Targus, Belkin, Canon, Logitech. And I had a consultancy that grew to about $250 million a year in my 20s. So my business career started a long time ago. I've been doing this for a while. You said 10,000 hours. I was adding it up in my head. I think I'm probably around 60 or 70,000 hours.
Well, then I guess you can be an expert for 6 times over.
Yeah, and that and about $5 will get you a half cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Well, when you started out, when you said you're in business at 8 or 9 years old, I was expecting to hear the old lemonade stand. I mean, just to give you a quick background on myself, when I was 12 years old and I went to camp, I went to a day camp, and what did I do? I was at camp, and a friend of mine and we got these containers of Diet Coke, or it was called C&C Coca-Cola. We'd ice it up and walk along the beach and be selling cans that we paid 6 cents for. We'd sell it for $1 on the beach, and that's what I was doing in camp when everybody else was having fun. So I can definitely have had some similarities in the experience background that you have had, but nowhere near as successful, nowhere near this $250 million of revenue that you were bringing in for the company you were working for. Now, you were working for your own company, or did you start a company?
It was actually my company. I partnered with a couple of other firms. That's how I got the start in Fortune 500. It was not, I don't want to make it sound like I went out and signed Fuji on my own. I actually had a friend who was interviewing for a consultancy position with them. I went to the interview with him. I was living in Florida. He was in New York. We ended up signing Fuji for Florida, and that started my business. And so I partnered with him for a period of time. I partnered with some other companies. I actually sold that business when I was in my 30s, and when I met my wife, I didn't want to work 90 hours a week anymore and travel 2/3 of the month, and so I ended up selling out of that company, and it was a really intense time, though. Brien, or Peter, you might, I'm going to call you Brien because I asked Brien. Peter, and by the way, I like how you spell Brien. You and I have similar spelling abilities. But, Peter, you can probably relate to this. I was always a fundamentally different type of kid. I didn't do well in school. I would do well, and then I wouldn't do well. I went from special education to gifted and talented in a 2-year period. Then I went back to normal school, then back to gifted and talented. It was really confusing. I got along with some teachers. I didn't get along with others. In some subjects, I did really well. In other subjects, I just couldn't figure out how to pay attention. And as a kid, I didn't turn to the normal channels to get help. I didn't think like school was a place to get help or teachers were a place to get help. I started reading. And I read obsessively about successful people and what did they do to become successful. And I thought I was going to go out and read something, completely different and unique and not like me, because I was the kid who, I heard teachers say things like behavioral disorder, learning disabilities. I even heard a teacher once say retarded about me. And so I had this judgment of myself that I was like broken and I probably would never be successful. And as a kid, I started reading about success obsessively. And what I found was, successful people throughout history have been the exception. The person who didn't show up like everyone else, read like everyone else, talk like everyone else, and walk like everyone else and learn like everyone else. And today, when you have that equation in today's society, if you don't look like everyone else, talk like everyone else, show up like everyone else, we consider you a broken person. We have to diagnose, medicate, and change you. And history has proven that person that wasn't like everyone else is exactly the entrepreneur who's going to change the world. And so as a kid, I obsessed over this stuff. So when I got the opportunity at 21 to consult at the Fortune 500 level, I had already done so much research and so much studying, and I feel like I had prepared myself for it in a way that most people probably never would. I had, I'm dyslexic, but when I'm alone and when it's quiet, I can read very fast. I've taught myself how to read fast, and I've read, hundreds and then thousands of books and third-party accounts and articles and stories of successful people. And there's this clear pattern that those who are most different are exactly those who change the world. And, today, the rest of the world, other than entrepreneurs, strives for average and clings desperately to the status quo. But people like us get up every day. We go into the future, create a new reality, and come back to the present, then insist it becomes real. And that's who I am, and that's who I help. That's who I work with.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go over too many points there, but obviously one is safety, right? So I think a lot of people try to go the normal approach. Why? They get married, they have kids, they need to make the money to make the mortgage. They know that if they put a little bit of money in their 401k over time, they'll have some money, and to create something while doing all that at the same time is a very difficult concept. So that's one thing. Two is, I'm very glad you went after you got married and had kids, that you went from 90 hours, that you stopped working 90 hours a week, and I'm going to guess you only were working 80. So that was a big break.
Well, entrepreneurs are the only people in the world that will give up a 9 to 5 in exchange for a 9 to 9, 7 days a week. And, we do it because we want the freedom to be able to do something different and change the world. And, I coach a lot of entrepreneurs around the world who are growing fast growth companies, and I show them systems and strategies so that they don't have to work 90 and 100 hours a week, so that they can have it all, so that they can raise kids and have families and stop feeling like they're letting everyone around them down.
So, let me go a little bit. And by the way, you have a website, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You can just go to alexsharfin.com, and that explains more about me. And then the best place to get more information on me is go to freemomentumbook.com. I have a book called The Entrepreneurial Personality Type, and it explains people like us in a way that I don't think anyone ever has.
Well, that's absolutely correct. Is that book only available on your site, or can they go to Amazon for that book?
Right now, it's just available on our site. It's actually free right now. We're running a promotion where it's free if you pay the shipping.
And let's go over your current business right now. The name of your current business is that your name, or is it a different? Is it Alex Sharfin?
Yeah, it's just my last name. You can also go to sharfin.com and see all of our products. But yeah, it's just Sharfin.
And so, how would you help somebody here? We're in Santa Clarita area of California. How would you help somebody who owned a furniture store? That's my hypothetical that I use all the time. So someone's got a furniture store. They got about $1 million of revenue, and because the cost of furniture is so expensive and the inventory cost is expensive, they're getting by. They got a house. They own the business, but they're still the 9 to 5 concept of, I just got enough money to meet my mortgage, just have enough money to put a little bit into a SEP IRA, and I'm struggling. How can you help that business?
Well, we work in 3 areas that most organizations, most consultants, and information products companies are scared of. We work in strategic planning, which is having a strategic plan that you can share with your team where everyone in the organization knows where you're going. The second area we work in is in clear communications cadence. That's a system and a structure through which you communicate with your entire team, and they understand what's happening at all times. And then the third area is we show entrepreneurs how to build an infrastructure of both people and processes into their businesses so that they can grow at a very fast rate. So I'll give you an example. For a furniture company, we do what we do for any other organization. But about a year ago, we started working with an organization called Gym Launch, and they were a company that shows gyms how to bring in people, so how to bring in memberships. And when we started with Gym Launch, they were hovering right at around $1 million a year, so similar to your furniture company. They were only 3 people, and they were overwhelmed because they had opportunity, but they didn't know how to deliver on it. They didn't know how to build the infrastructure of people. They didn't really have a strategic plan. We sat down with them. We showed them how to build a strategic plan like we build it. We created a clear communication structure so that everyone in the company knows when they're going to be communicated with, how they're going to be communicated with, and what's going to be said. So we call it a cadence. And then we showed them how to start building the infrastructure of people and process. And in a 12-month period, Gym Launch went from right around between 1 and 2 million on, if you look at their monthly run rate and annualized it, to after 12 months, they were at about 30 million. They went from 3 people to over 50. And we do that type of growth with companies all the time. So if a company has massive opportunity, they come to us and we show them how to build the business around that opportunity without killing themselves.
Wow. That is I don't know if people understand that. He basically he didn't go up 5 times, 10 times, 20 times. He pretty much went up 30 times from 1 million to 30 million. That is humongous in 1 year. And what I would think though, as an outside person, is how could I afford to fund a company like that to grow that fast? Because typically I would think that great, you typically the way it works is you got to hire people, then you bring in more revenue. You hire people, you bring in more revenue. How do you finance a growth of that sort?
So we show every company that we work with how to self-finance and self-fund by having the right margins and going after the right avatar for the service that they provide. And that's not an isolated case. So just to give you an idea, Peter, we use our own systems in growing our business. And in 2000, after I got out of Fortune 500 consulting, I got into real estate. In the early 2000s in South Florida, so in 2007, I found myself bankrupt. My wife and I had, over the course of about a half a decade, we built a huge real estate organization. And when the market crashed, we crashed along with it. And what we did coming out of that crash, coming out of our bankruptcy, was we started the company that we have today. In 2007, we were bankrupt. In 2008 was our first full year of operations. And in 2011, we were the 21st fastest growing company in the United States. We did $127,000 in revenue in our first year, $500,000 in our second year, 7.2 in our third, and 9.9 in our Inc. 500 qualification year. So we don't just show other companies how to do that. We did it ourselves. And as somebody who was bankrupt, we had no access to capital or credit or anything else. We had to self-fund. And so we work with coaches, consultants, information products companies, agencies, even some retail products companies, and then a lot of practices like physician and practitioners, like functional medicine, and all of those organizations. We show them how to organically fund, because taking on money is one of the most stressful and the most painful things that an entrepreneur can do. There's coaches out there who are really good at telling you how to take on money. I'm really good at telling you how to get out of the investment that you took on.
Well, that's quite amazing too. In the beginning, okay, I'm trying to understand this concept. We may have to take a break. You're bankrupt, okay? You're starting a business, okay? So you can't advertise or market your services conventionally anyway, not through advertising. How do you get those first clients? They don't know anything about you, and your background is bankruptcy.
The way we did it in the course that we had, we created a course called the Certified Distressed Property Expert. I think I had an unfair advantage, Peter, in that I had been a Fortune 500 consultant for a long time. I knew how to get the right information in front of the right people. And I went out and I sold our course one by one. We had a course that was $249, and January 23rd and 24th, 2008, we had 62 people that had paid us $249 to be in a room, and I had sold every single one of them. And in our first year, we sold about 1,500 people, somewhere between $249 and $399, which is where we raised our price to in that first year. And then over the course of the lifetime of that product, the Certified Distressed Property Expert, it's not really an active product anymore. We don't do a lot with it. We still get paid by it, and people still buy it every month. If you go to cdp.com, you can check it out. But that product ended up selling almost 50,000 units. But what we're really proud of is we sold about 49,700 units total, but we had 47,800 people graduate. So we had massive adoption. And over the course of time, we were literally from bankruptcy court to teaching that course using our systems, the forward-looking strategy, communications.
Hey, can you hold that thought? Sorry to interrupt. We have to take a break.
Sure, no worries.
We'll be right back.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
The stress was unbelievable. Debbie Morris is a changed woman. giant boulder's been lifted.
Debbie called Made for You.
I'd finished a day of work.
Professional, residential, and commercial cleaning.
Walk into my house.
Made for You.
It was an absolute pigsty.
Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or even one-time seasonal cleaning.
Our mess kept growing.
255-2922.
Even when we weren't home.
255-2922.
Made for You rescued me.
Do you think taxpayers should pay for politicians' political campaigns? Assembly candidate Christy Smith does. Christy Smith supports raising our taxes. But guess where the money would go? Christy Smith wants to spend as much as $600 million in taxpayer money paying for the annoying mail and TV that politicians bombard us with. Let that sink in. Assembly candidate Christy Smith wants you to pay for political campaigns, even for those politicians you disagree with. Let that sink in. Christy Smith would spend $600 million for politicians instead of better roads or better schools for our kids. Christy Smith is just wrong.
Women deserve equal pay for equal work. It's just that simple. That's what's good about Assemblyman Dante Acosta. Dante Acosta voted to require equal pay for equal work. And Dante Acosta voted to let every child attend pre-kindergarten. That's Dante Acosta. Bipartisan, independent, fair.
Paid for by Dante Acosta for Assembly 2018.
Bob, I don't believe you.
You're jaded, Blanche.
Read my lips, Bob. You've had a history of exaggeration.
It's true. They're building Castaic High School.
Castaic High, like in Castaic, California.
That's right, Blanche.
Prove it, Bob.
Go to your computer, type in CastaicHighProject.com and get free and frequent updates.
What's that web address again?
CastaicHighProject.com.
With fervor, like you really mean it.
CastaicHighProject.com.
You've been assigned to plan your office party. Time to bring in the experts. AV Party Rentals is your go-to place for the most innovative holiday party ideas. AV's been planning Santa Clarita events from giant galas to intimate gatherings for longer than, well, since Rudolph was a young fawn. AV will turn your office party into a winter wonderland. See the latest holiday displays at Santa Clarita's favorite wedding, party, and holiday event rental store, AV Party Rentals on New Hall Avenue and at avpartyrental.com.
You want to quit smoking, but you just can't get over the challenge. Tobacco Plus has the solution. Visit their unique shop in Canyon Country and test out Nick Max for free. If you like it, Tobacco Plus has the guaranteed lowest prices in our valley.
Cigars, pipes, smoking accessories, and a variety of unique vape products. It's all at Tobacco Plus with the lowest prices and now accepting all store coupons.
Visit us today to redeem your $3 coupon off any carton.
Tobacco Plus on Soledad behind Carl's Jr.
KHTS. Now FM, 98.1 FM and AM 1220, your hometown station.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. That and is from New York City, where I'm originally from. New York City. Okay, and we have our great, great show. My guest has amazing, these aren't stories. These are actual case studies. Everything he says is actually happened. So when you listen to him, listen very, very carefully, because you may be able to figure out, just based on his little story, how you can go from zero to $1 million billion. And we have our guest, Alex Chafin. Are you there?
I'm here. Thank you, Peter.
All right. How come you're not as enthusiastic as I am?
I think only one of us can do that. There's got to be a straight man, right?
Actually, that was a very good response. I think you're absolutely correct. My co-host is usually very, very quiet when I talk. All right, so we were going over, and the last part of our conversation was you had come up with this book about distressed properties that you were selling when you first started out your business that you currently own. And it
was actually a designation. It wasn't a book. We actually had a 2-day course that evolved into an online course. And at one point, that course, after about a year and a half, it was recommended by most of the major brokerages. Eventually, we partnered with Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, Citibank, My background as a consultant got me in the room, and then the course did what it needed to do. We helped tons. Mathematically, we helped about 7 million homeowners avoid foreclosure through short sale through our membership. And in 2013, the U.S. Treasury came to our office and did a broadcast and told us that we helped pull forward the recovery of the foreclosure crisis by about 5 to 7 years.
Wow. So, in other words, we'd still be in it right now. Because 7 years from 2012.
It's very possible.
Well, we're very grateful that you were able to do that. Now, first question I have is, well, first of all, getting into those banks, getting into those companies, I mean, is that it? I mean, you only picked the top 10 banks in the world that probably control, what, $10 trillion. I mean, that's it? You couldn't get any bigger companies than that?
Yeah, no kidding.
Now, so I don't want to spend too much time on this distress part because our focus on our show is really how to build businesses. But when you say graduate, because you're coming up with a comment, I believe you said something close to 47,000 out of 49,000 people had graduated from your course. Is it they have to take a test? They have to accomplish their goal? What is it?
Yeah, we actually online, they had to take a test, and then in person, they had to be in the room for the 2 days, and we actually had a head count. So, one of the things in the information product business that's really interesting is that purchases to adoption is a very sad ratio. Nightingale Conant came out with a ratio that they think about 2% of all of the information products that they've ever sold have actually been listened to. And I actually asked a representative from the company how they knew that. And they said that occasionally they would sell CD sets or back in the day tape sets where they would have an error and, on tape 6 it was blank or it would be the wrong program or something like that. And they'd get about 2% returns. So they use that as the estimate that about 2% of them ever got listened to. On our information product for the real estate industry, we had over 95% adoption. So more than 95% of the people who bought the product actually took the test online, and earned the designation.
Now, is this test harder than the DMV test?
From what I remember, it's much harder than the DMV test.
And when you determine success, do you determine success as somebody that was able to sell a distressed property, or are you determining success just by passing the exam?
Just by passing the exam. We trained real estate agents. So we worked with RE/MAX, Century 21, Prudential, and a lot of the regional brokerages to train most of their real estate agents.
So how did you go from distressed property and selling that course into growing and scaling businesses? So in
2000, growing and scaling businesses is consulting that I've always done. That's really what I used to do. I never got hired by any company because everything was going really well and they wanted us to maintain it. What I used to do as a consultant is we as a company would help with failing product lines, territories, divisions. We would come in and we would apply the same things I've been sharing with you. Forward planning and strategy, communications, and then clear infrastructure building with the right people and processes, and we would turn those divisions or product lines or territories around. And so in 2011, once we had grown the CDP designation and got a lot of people involved in it, we had realtors coming to us and saying, hey, we're now the number one realtor in our territory, real estate brokerage in our territory. We used to be tiny, but now because we're doing distressed properties, we've exploded. What do we do? And so we started a series of courses back then around how to grow and scale business, and it's evolved over time to what we teach today. We have a concept called the Billionaire Code, which is the 9 levels that entrepreneurs go through in order to create success. And it's actually available. The whole matrix is available at billionairecode.com. And we have a product called the Billionaire Code Accelerator, and it's a coaching program where we coach CEOs and the person that helps them run their business. We don't just coach business owners. There's actually a 2-person program. So we work with CEOs and their assistant, or CEOs and their operator, or we work with husband and wife teams, or we work with partners. But we want to work with the visionary and the implementer. And we show them how to create strategic plans and renew them on a monthly basis so that they can get forward progress. We show them how to communicate with their team and then how to build the infrastructure. And Peter, here's the problem we solve. The vast majority of entrepreneurial businesses have absolutely no strategic planning at all. In fact, less than 1% of all businesses have a strategic plan of any kind. And when you look at how challenging that is, you're literally trying to guide a ship through very rough waters without knowing where you're going. And most business owners feel like they're constantly putting out fires and solving the problem that just happened because they are. Because when you don't have a strategic plan, you can't anticipate what you need next. And in the United States, there's 29 million businesses. 22 million are under $100,000. If you go all the way up to $1 million, it's 26 million are under $1 million in revenue. So a very small percentage, 3 out of every 100 businesses will ever get past $1 million. And when they do, a lot of business owners think if I could just get to $1 million, everything would change. Well, the problem is sometimes $1 million business feels even more broken than a $100,000 business because there's more moving parts, there's more responsibility, there's usually a small team. And so by showing business owners how to strategically plan, everything changes. I'll give you another example. We're working with a firm here in Austin. They're an Amazon advertising agency, so it's a service firm. It's run by Brien and Brien Johnson. It's called Canopy Management. And we started working with Brien and Brien. And by the way, they spell their names Brian, just so you know.
I was just going to say that. They do not know how to spell their names, but I won't tell them that.
but Brien and Brien, we started with these guys. They were getting to be about $1 million a year company. And there was only 4 of them. They didn't have a strategic plan. So as partners, they were running into each other a lot. They were having a lot of elevated conversations. And there was conflict there because they didn't have a clear path and a plan to follow and how to get there. And most planning systems for entrepreneurs are really difficult because they're so heavy and labor intensive that the planning takes way too much time. Well, we teach minimum effective dose planning, and we showed it to the 2 of them. They actually came to our event a couple months ago. And they went from 4 people to, they just put up a post on Facebook with a picture of their team meeting. They now have 12 people in 4 months. And they've gone from about $100,000 a month in sales to, they just reported that in October so far, they've done $500,000. And so we help companies explode when they have the opportunity. And for anyone who's listening and thinking, like, how is that possible? The difference between not having a plan and not knowing where you're going next and having a clear plan and understanding where you're going next is night and day. Because as an entrepreneur, we get labeled as risk takers. I actually don't believe that. I think the rest of the world thinks we're risk takers, but entrepreneurs move forward when we have certainty, when we believe, when we think something's actually going to work. And so when you have a clear strategic plan, it changes your confidence level in the business. And it changes how you execute in the business, and it gives you a clear path of what to do next. And when an entrepreneur has that, and we're making progress and we feel momentum, we will stand on the gas pedal and grow as fast as possible.
So what is the defining factor to know to scale, that you're ready to scale? Having a business plan or having a plan, a strategic plan, is that it?
Having opportunity. I think one of the biggest challenges with most businesses today is that they haven't really created a real opportunity, and then they try and scale. And the businesses we work with, we make sure that they have a solid opportunity, that they know how to get people in the door. On the Billionaire Code, there's 3 levels under $300,000. There's 0 to 40,000, which we call a seeker. That's the person who's seeking, who wants to start a business, who hasn't. And, in the United States, there's 16 million $0 to $40,000 businesses. The second level of the Billionaire Code is 40 to 100,000. We call that a starter. And that's the person who is just getting their feet wet, starting to get some business. Usually they're doing a lot of different things. They don't have consistent delivery. If they can solve that issue and get some consistent delivery, the next level of the Billionaire Code is 100 to 300,000. And we call that the promoter. And in the promoter phase, you have to identify your avatar, know who you're going to serve, and then attract them towards you. And if you can solve that, finding the person that you want to serve over and over again, you go into the next phase of the Billionaire Code, 300,000 to $1 million, which we call builder, which is where you build process and systems around what you do well. And if you do that, if you can scale a business to $1 million, and if you can get a business to 300,000, we can show you how to get it to $1 million. And if we can get it to $1 million, we can get it to 10. And we do it all the time with entrepreneurs who we're working with.
And what's the average time to go from 300,000 to $1 million? And the next question you'll know will be from 1 million to 10.
You know, it's so hard, Peter. There's not really an average time. I mean, sometimes we do it so fast that it looks overwhelming how crazy fast it is. Like, we've had people come in, be at $25,000 or $30,000 a month in revenue, and within 60 days be at $120,000 or $150,000 a month in revenue. So literally going from that $300,000 range to the $1 million range in less than a quarter. But there's also other companies that come in at 300,000, and it might take them a year to get to $1 million in run rate. It really depends on what size opportunity they have and how well the entrepreneurs execute, not just on our content, but on the delivery of their product. And so I don't really have an average, but you know, when you look at how businesses grow on average in the United States, only 3% will ever get to $1 million, and the majority of our clients get to $1 million and go past it. And most businesses we work with double in their first 12 months.
What is the biggest success that you've had?
As far as our clients go?
Yes.
It's, you know, Gym Launch was a really great success story. We worked with another organization called Lady Boss. They help women. They're in women's weight loss. When we started with Brandon and Kaylin Poulin at Lady Boss, they were at 18 people. They were doing about $9 million. I remember Brandon told me, I don't think I can ever scale past 18 people. And I said, you know, Brien, once you have the systems and structures in place, I think you won't say that anymore. And we worked with them, and it only took them about 10 months. But from $9.5 million in 10 months, they got to $50 million. So they went from a sub $1 million a month run rate to a $4.3 million month in their 10th or 11th month with us. And so those types of stories are like the outliers. Most of the businesses we work with are similar to Canopy, or I just got off the phone with Jason Hull, who runs a company called DoorGrow. He trains property managers how to get more business. When we started with Jason, he was at around $350,000 a year, and we just looked at his numbers today, and it's about 14 months later, he's at about 1.2 million a year. So, you know, that type of growth in the entrepreneurial world is incredibly fast. In fact, most of our clients qualify for the Inc. 500 list.
Now that you've made that statement, I have to ask you, how many?
How many clients do we have on the Inc. 500 list?
Yes.
We've only been coaching in this product since 2000, for about 18 months now, Peter. So we're waiting to see. I know we have at least 5 or 6 that have qualified this year. Some of the clients we work with are waiting for their years of eligibility. I'm pretty sure that Gym Launch and Lady Boss might be in the top 10 in their years of eligibility, which I think are next year and the year after. The way the Inc. 500 list works, you have to have been in business for at least 5 years or 4 years. And so most companies we work with are waiting for that 4th year.
Have you ever worked with a startup?
Like a $0 revenue startup?
Yeah, so hey, I just want to let you know I'm going to launch Ask Brien 2 next week.
Not really. Not really. You know, I think one of the most important things in the business world is to stay in your lane. And there are so many people that are so good at working with the seekers and the starters and the promoters and showing them how to refine their avatar and refine their offering and really understand who they want to serve and do lead generation. And so we really don't work with startups. We take, like, our minimum client is usually around $300,000 a year run rate or $25,000 a month. And in most cases, what we're looking for is a client that is growing really fast, has a huge opportunity. And so, you know, if we work with a startup, it's just not, we don't have the systems and the content for them, because what we show people how to do is build a structure around an opportunity that's already been created and then maximize the opportunity.
And we have about 1 minute left, and we're going to be taking a short break here. And your company revenues are approximately how much?
In the last 18 months, we've gotten our recurring revenue to about $2.2 million.
And are you still on the Inc. 500?
We're actually shooting to get on it again. We were on it in 2011, 2012, and 2013 with our real estate product. And so we're eligible with this company in, I think it's 2020, and we'll be applying again.
And should I buy some real estate in South Florida?
I wouldn't buy real estate right now as an investment. I think we're headed for a major market correction.
Well, we're going to be right back. We're going to be taking a break, and we're here with our guest, Alex Chafin.
Lots of people can build websites, but there's one Santa Clarita company that specializes in designing websites for your business. Small Dog Creative. The Small Dog Creative team is made up of local designers who are hands-on. Their talented team of experts build premium websites and redefine branding. Small Dog Creative doesn't just build websites. They'll upgrade your business's online presence and turn your business into a powerful online brand. Small Dog Creative, Santa Clarita's most innovative web and design company. SmallDogCreative.com.
Do you ever listen, but you're not really paying attention? Sort of like what you're doing to me right now. This is Alex Urbina, your advanced life coach specialist. One of the most frequent questions I hear is, what is a life coach? Well, tune in every Friday at noon to learn the value of having a coach and listen to a live coaching session on the radio. Right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
I've always been driven to serve our country and our community.
Congressman Steve Knight.
I served in the United States Army and spent 18 years as an officer with the Los Angeles Police Department. I ran for Congress because too often I saw people forgotten by Washington. The crisis at the VA exemplified a bureaucracy that was out of touch and hurting real people. As your congressman, I'm committed to making our government in Washington work better for you.
My name is David Brayton. I am an Air Force veteran. 10 years ago, my doctors told me that I had to have a double lung transplant. It was a massive uphill battle to get the VA to do what they said they were going to do in the first place. Finally, Steve Knight got involved, and if it wasn't for Steve Knight's assistance in this thing, I guarantee you I'd be dead. Steve Knight is a veteran, and he's LAPD on top of it. I'm voting for Steve Knight because he gets stuff done for us.
I'm Steve Knight, and I approve this message.
Every year, thousands of local children, teens, and adults receive treatment at the Child and Family Center for depression, anger, anxiety, abuse, thoughts of suicide, and drug and alcohol addictions. Our professional staff provides outpatient services at office locations, in the home, the community, and on many elementary, junior, and high school campuses throughout our valley. If you need help, contact Child and Family Center at 259-9439 or childfamilycenter.org. Improving lives, one family at a time.
Santa Clarita's hometown station. Hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
Welcome back to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. And we have an excellent show. This is the Ask Brien Radio, ASKBRIEN. That's the only way you can spell Brien. I know some people like to spell it with an A, a YAN. They don't know what they're talking about. It's ASKBRIEN. And every week we help you learn something about business. And we have a great guest. Our co-host, Alex Grossman, is on vacation. He will be back next week. In the meantime, we have our wonderful guest, and we've been having a great interview. And anyone that hasn't listened to the whole show, well, you should listen to the podcast, the YouTube video, or the Facebook Live episode, because you're going to learn something, and you will become more successful. And without further ado, we have Alex Chafin. Are you there, Alex?
I'm here.
You know, there's a lot of work up for this introduction. You know, so I'm trying to get the audience rounded up for you. while we were off air, because I've gotten calls, a couple of people have been calling up and saying, listen, I really was gung-ho. I wanted to sign up for that. The guy sounded great, but he said, if you're under 300,000, he doesn't take you as a client. And when we were offline, or actually off the radio, you were telling me about a program that you do have. So why don't you go over that program for people that have 0 to 300,000 so they can become your client?
We have a product called Momentum Masterclass, and it is specifically for entrepreneurs who feel like they could be doing more. They're leaving money on the table. They want to build a business. They want to have a bigger opportunity. And we show the personal side of the same thing that we talked about today. So we show how to create a personal strategic plan, how to renew that plan, and then the keystone habits that help entrepreneurs be successful. And that's available at MomentumMasterclass.com. And there's a presentation there if anybody wants to watch it to understand what the product offers. And Peter, it's here's who our client is. Our client is the person who wants to do more, who's tried every planning system out there and it didn't work, who wants to get organized, who feels like they could do more, who knows they're meant for more, and who's always had that crazy voice in the back of their head that says, you can do more, you can be more, you should leave more behind, you should make more happen here. And we show that person the systems and structures to make that real. So we've had people in Momentum Masterclass that are startups. We've had people that have never been entrepreneurs. We've had people who are just dipping their toe into entrepreneurship. And what we show is the keystone habits that millionaire entrepreneurs use to create massive organizations and create success.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but you know that previously or concurrently I am an attorney. So my question is, of the people that have gone through Momentum Masterclass, have any of those people ever become your client?
Oh, yeah, tons. Momentum Masterclass is a feeder product for us. In fact, we've had multiple people who bought that product when they were under 300,000 or in startup mode. And what happens in the culture around Momentum Masterclass is the goal is to become one of our accelerator clients. And so, we've had that happen over and over again.
So basically, you can go from startup to millions and millions of dollars because first level is hit 300,000, and then boom, you're signing up as a consultant with Alex Chafin and his group. Is that how it works?
It could be how it works. As an attorney, I can't make any. I don't want to make any definitive statements, but I'll tell you that that's a distinct possibility. And I don't mean I'm an attorney. I meant talking to an attorney. I want to be careful here.
Well, remember, this is a radio show, and we're not just speaking to ourselves. We are speaking to a live audience. We have about 2 minutes left. My engineer's giving me these weird looks, so I know we're in a 2-minute drill. And this is kind of like the NFL. 2 minutes left in the game. You're down by 7 points, and we got Alex Chafin's coming on the field. He's the quarterback. Now, let's go over the planning stages here. When we refer to planning, are you referring to like a business plan, or are you referring to just any type of a plan?
I'm referring to a strategic plan. A business plan is typically a plan that's written to start a business. The challenge is that today, the vast majority of businesses don't know where they're going to be in a year. And Peter, the most important thing for a CEO to do is to be able to predict the future, to be able to say, here's what we're going to do in a year, here's what we're going to do this quarter, and here's what we're going to accomplish this month. And when you look at small businesses, the chief complaint, there's 2 major complaints in small businesses from team members. The first one is there's not enough communication, so we don't know where we're going, we don't know what we're doing, we don't know what we're aiming at. And the second one is we change directions too often. And so what we do is we show entrepreneurs how to create a plan that is malleable enough and changeable enough that they're still comfortable with it, but it gives the team enough that they know where they're going. Because here's the issue. Until you tell your team where you're going, you will always be the biggest bottleneck. You will always have to fill in, and you're in transactional management where you're telling people what to do, checking that it got done, and telling them what to do again. Once you have a forward-looking strategic plan, you can shift to transformational leadership where you give people clear outcomes, you coach and guide their success along the way, and you get leveraged results. That is the main reason why we have so much success with entrepreneurs, because we show them a lot of times for the first time how to effectively build a team, create a plan, and then go out and make it happen together.
And if somebody wants to go ahead, they should. If they have 0 to 300,000, they would go to Momentum Masterclass, and if they have more than that, they would contact you to become a consulting client. Is that how it works?
Yeah, they can go to Momentum Masterclass. They can also go to freemomentumbook.com and check out the book, The Entrepreneurial Personality Type. And then we have a group on Facebook called The Billionaire Code.
And is that a closed group or anyone can join?
Anyone can join.
And without further ado, unfortunately, my eyes are tearing. The show is over. I don't know what I'm going to do. We're definitely going to have you back on. You've been a great guest, and we'll talk in a minute. Thank you, KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM radio.
Little Eye Leaders is the newest preschool in the Santa Clarita Valley. At Little Eye